The Matrix movies I found very interesting. There were lots of very good symbolism in there, where the Neo character is told by the Morpheus character that he's a slave and that he needs to recognize he's a slave. And that's the first step to freedom. The first step to freedom within this gathering Orwellian world is to realize that we are in a gathering Orwellian world. Because once that realization comes, then we start to see the bars. We're no longer sitting in a cell without bars thinking we're free. We can start to see the bars. Once you see the bars, you can start to think, well, what do I do about it? And then the next thing, that we want to be free. That we don't want to be sheep anymore. That we want to take our minds back. That we want to have our own opinions and our own views, and not those that are bombarded at us daily through education and through the media and all the other sources of so-called information. And then there's the transformation, where you open your mind and break the spell that so many people are under, the hypnotic spell of seeing the world in a certain way. And when you realize, or you start to transform, you realize a staggering fact, which the cutting edge of science is now beginning even to identify, that this world we think is physical is an illusion. It's an illusion. There is no out there in terms of physical things that we perceive out there. What is out there are just frequency fields which we are decoding into a holographic reality. And our reality is a reality that we decode from frequency fields into apparently a physical world, but it's just a holographic illusion. And therefore, if you know that that's what we're doing, and the population have no idea that that's what they're doing, you are suddenly in an extraordinarily powerful place to manipulate how we perceive reality en masse. As Einstein said, reality is an illusion, albeit a persistent one. These physical bodies lock us in to a frequency range, a lens through which we perceive reality, which we call the physical world. In the same space that we're occupying are infinite other frequencies of reality, and we ourselves, in terms of consciousness, are infinite. But when we work through a physical body, that infinite consciousness that we are works through a tiny lens. I guess it's about experience, who knows? And when you start to identify that this body, this vehicle, this biological computer is who we are, you get locked in the 5 sense prison pretty damn fast. Once you realize you are consciousness having an experience through this physical body, your mind starts to open and see that we are infinite. All matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration. We're all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. There's no such thing as death. Life is just a dream, and we are the imagination of ourselves. And the key to mass control is the manipulation of the imagination of ourselves. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. But through the lens of the physical body, particularly the manipulated one, it seems anything but that. It seems that everything's apart from everything else, and there is no unity. As this guy, H.M. Tomlinson, said, we see things not as they are, but as we are. And if you can manipulate what we are, you manipulate the way we see the world. And we are encouraged to see the world in a state of division, of apartness. I am apart from you. I have no connection because you're there and there's space in between us. The human race, overwhelmingly, is under mass hypnosis, programmed to see itself and the world in a certain way. Humanity, asleep. When people start to get it and start to see the world in a much different way, they use this term. They say, I woke up. Exactly. Waking up from the trance we've been put into. And what's the biggest hypnotist on planet Earth? The box in the corner of the room, which is constantly telling us what to believe is real, what to believe is possible, what to believe is right, what to believe is wrong, what to believe is moral and immoral. And when we see the world only through the five senses, and we drop into body consciousness alone, then we drop into a box of limitation. And once we have stopped connecting with higher levels of our consciousness and observing the world from that point, we only have one place to go to get a fix on who we are and the nature of reality, and that's out there through the eyes and the ears. And who controls that? The mainstream media, the education system. Put them in the box, lock them in body consciousness, then program the body computer that locks us into this tiny frequency range called visible light that we think is everything, when it is an infinitesimal fraction of what exists in the very space I'm standing in now. We live in the equivalent of a holographic internet, as I call it. The world seems so solid, but then they say it's made of atoms which have no solidity. How is that? Because it's an illusion. Solidity is decoded. We're decoding the equivalent of the wireless internet. Around me now, around all of us now, is this wireless internet. And we are decoding it into holographic reality that we call the world. That's what it is. We are receiver-transmitters of information. And if you can manipulate the computer, you can manipulate what it can perceive and what it can access. We are perceivers. We are awareness. We are not objects. We have no solidity. We are boundless. We, or rather our reason, forget this, and thus we entrap the totality of ourselves in a vicious circle from which we rarely emerge in our lifetime. We are awareness, that's what we are. And the idea of the manipulators is to limit that awareness as much as possible, so that we only see ourselves in limited apartness terms. We are living in a holographic world, a holographic universe. It's basically a frequency field. Reality is frequency fields which we decode into this so-called physical world. We are consciousness, infinite consciousness, working through the body and having an experience. We are being manipulated to identify with the body as who we are, and therefore we think in terms of limitation, I can't, I could never, and division from our fellow infinite consciousness. Einstein said, you cannot solve problems with the same level of consciousness that created them. There is no path to peace. Peace is the path. This is the level of consciousness we've got to start going to. You must be the change you want to be in the world, or see in the world, Gandhi said. Martin Luther King, cowardice asked the question, is it safe? Expediency asked the question, is it politic? Vanity asked the question, is it popular? But conscience asked the question, is it right? And there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but one must take it because it is right.